Bambu Lab printers have a great web-accessible user interface built right into them, but with the power of open source Smart Home Hub, Home Assistant, you can not only more closely monitor your printers when you're not sat right next to them, you can add new and genuinely useful functionality. In this video, I'll take you step by step through how to get your Bambu Lab printer integrated with Home Assistant, and then we'll take a look at some of the things that you can do with this. So, let's have a look. If you aren't familiar with Home Assistant, it's basically an open source system for managing your smart home and your connected devices and services, and it's most commonly installed on a Raspberry Pi. If you're just starting out and you don't yet have Home Assistant set up, I've already got a tutorial taking you through how to do that, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. I've also left a link in the description below to my tutorial on how to install the Home Assistant Community Store add-on, which is required for this tutorial. Once you've got Home Assistant and hacks set up, you're now ready to get Bambu Labs integrated with your Home Assistant, so let's get stuck in. Right, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is grab some information from your printer, which we'll need later on. You need to grab your printer's serial number, its LAN access code, its local IP address, and whilst it's not essential, also grab its current usage hours. All of this information is available from the screen of any Bambu Lab 3D printer, but frustratingly it's in a different place on each one. I'll do a quick run through now on a X1C and also on an A1. On an X1C, go to Settings, then on the General tab you'll find the LAN access code. If you then tap through to Device Info, you'll get the serial number for that printer, and at the top you'll see the usage hours. Finally, go back to Settings and move over to the Network tab to get your IP address. On the A1, go to Settings and select Device for serial number, and then go back to Settings and go down to LAN only for both your IP address and access code.
On Home Assistant, head to the Hacks page via the sidebar. Now, the Bambu Lab integration isn't yet listed in the Hacks repository, so we need to install this via the Custom Repositories option. Click the three dots in the top right of the screen and select Custom Repositories. Under Repository, enter gregHESP/HA-Bambu Lab. This is the location on GitHub where the Bambu Lab integration is saved. Under Category, select Integration, then click Add. Now you can navigate back to the Hacks page and search for Bambu Lab, where it should now show up. Select it and then click Download and Confirm. Now restart Home Assistant either via the notification which should have popped up in Settings, which will restart it for you automatically, or you can just go to Developer Tools, Restart, and then select Restart Home Assistant. Once Home Assistant has restarted, head back to the Devices and Services page in Settings. Click the Add Integration button and search for Bambu Lab. It should now show up in here, and you can see this little box icon to the right showing that it's a custom integration. From here, you'll need to select whether your printer is in cloud mode or if you're operating it in LAN mode. Most people are likely in cloud mode, so that's what we'll do here. But with some interesting developments here in Home Assistant, you may be able to switch your printer to LAN mode and retain some of the features currently exclusive to cloud mode. So watch out for another video on that very soon. Right, let's click Next. Select the region that you selected when you set up your Bambu Lab account and then enter your Bambu Lab login details. It'll now display each of the printers that you currently have registered to that account. Select which printer you would like to add. You can add all of them to Home Assistant, but you need to run through this part of the process for each of them individually. So select the one that you'd like to start with, then click Next. This is where we'll need the details for your printer which we grabbed earlier. First of all, we have a toggle switch for Connect Locally to Printer. This allows Home Assistant to speak directly to the printer without needing to go via the cloud. I'll go ahead and turn this on, but if it gives you an error when you submit this page, turn this off to continue. Next, enter the local IP address and the LAN access code for your printer. If you've previously connected this printer to another device on your network, such as a Panda Touch, keep an eye out for a video on that soon, you may find it automatically displays the access code for you here. You can also enter the current usage hours for your printer. Whilst this isn't essential, it can be used for displaying interesting metrics later on. Click Next. Sometimes the first time you do this, it comes up with an error saying the details are incorrect, even if they're absolutely fine. Check over the entered information, then click Next again, and it should go through. Now it will list the printer and any devices that are directly attached to it. This X1C, for example, has two AMSs attached to it. and the X1C can obviously have an external spool fitted, so it's identified each of these as devices. Occasionally it won't display everything correctly first time. As you can see here, we're only seeing the X1C and the external spool and no AMSs, but once we change one of the settings, it should then refresh this view and we'll be able to see everything. You'll see this in a second. You can then apply each of these to an area in your home, such as a room. If there isn't one currently listed for where they live, you can add it. Do that for each of them now, then click Finish. Now if you go to the Integrations tab of the Devices and Services page in Settings, you will see Bambu Lab listed under the Configured Integrations. This refers to the Bambu Lab integration, and you can see beneath it, it lists 4 devices are integrated. If we go to the Devices tab, you can see at the bottom we now have 4 Bambu Lab devices listed, which is the X1C, the 2 AMSs and the external spool. Let's select the X1C, and now things start to get interesting.
I just wanted to let you know that you can now become a channel member, getting early access to my videos, exclusive access to the 3D Rev Discord community, a members only discount at 3drevolutionstore.com, and a load of other benefits, not to mention supporting me and my channel, ensuring I keep making content like this for you in the future. If that sounds good to you, you can hit the join button below any of my videos. Whether or not you're ready to become a 3D revolutionary, if you're finding this video useful, why not quickly tap the like and subscribe buttons below this video, both helping me and making sure that you don't miss my future videos. Right, back to the tutorial.
Before we get started, let's click the pencil button at the top right and rename the printer. Currently, all of these devices have long unfriendly names featuring their serial numbers, so let's rename this just to X1C. Now it's important to do this at the start, as if you want to rename your devices later on, you can, but if you've already set up automations and scenes which reference these devices, which we'll look at in a bit, then you would need to go through each of them and reassign each of those automations to the newly named devices. So change the names of the devices before you go any further. I'll quickly pop into both the AMS and the external spool and do the same for them, then I'll pop back here to the X1C page. At the top here, we've got the basic details for the device, and next to that, we've got a few settings that we can control, such as the fans and the print speed, though the print speed is grayed out as it's currently not printing. Below these settings, we have a list of all of the sensors on this device, along with their current readings. You can click on them for more information and to adjust how some of the information is displayed. So for example, if we click on bed temperature, we get a graph of the bed temperature over time. If we click on camera, we get a live feed of the printer's built-in camera, which we can then view full screen, or we can set it to picture-in-picture, that you can then move around wherever you want on your display on top of other windows, making it a really convenient way of just popping it in the corner as something that you can glance at whilst working on something else. It's worth noting that different browsers will give you access to picture-in-picture or PIP differently. With Firefox, you right-click on the video itself. With Chrome, there's a link directly in the UI. To the left of the long list of sensors are automations. This is one of the areas that Home Assistant can be an incredibly powerful tool. We haven't got any automations set up yet, so there's nothing to list here, but if we click on the plus button, we get a huge list of situations that can be selected as triggers that will then automatically cause other things to happen. These triggers could be the state of a sensor that Home Assistant is monitoring, reading a certain value, or it could be something more general like a time of day. So for example, there is a sensor in the X1C which lets it know if the enclosure door is open or closed. So I could select do something when enclosure door is opened. So for example, I could set an automation so when I open the enclosure door, if the light was currently off at that time, it would turn the light on for me automatically. Alternatively, for example, you could have an automation triggered when a print error is detected. When you select a trigger, it takes you to a new automation page to finish making the automation. I can then add other things that could independently trigger that same automation. The next thing I can add is a condition, so this means if a trigger happens, only run the automation if these conditions are also met. As with triggers, conditions can be based on sensor states or switches or anything else connected to Home Assistant. So for example, if my trigger is detecting a print error and I'm going to use this automation to let me know about it, I don't want it waking me up while I'm asleep, so I could use a time condition. So it's only going to run this automation if it's between 7 AM and 11 PM any day of the week. You could set multiple conditions if you needed to, or even use building blocks. I won't go into them in this video, but building blocks allow you to make much more complicated automations. Now we just need to set what the automation does when it's triggered. This could do something on the printer, send me an email, turn on the TV, do something with another device, or anything that's integrated with Home Assistant. And it could be multiple things. It doesn't just need to be a single thing. You could even have other automations looking out for things that this automation does, and then that triggers them to run as well based on what's happened. For the purpose of this automation, I'm going to select text-to-speech, speech. Now if I select Choose Entity and choose Google Encom, which is a text-to-speech system by Google, under Media Player Entity I can choose Office Speaker, which is a Google Nest Hub I have in my office, and finally I can enter the X1C has encountered an error. And once I hit save, I can name the automation, enter an optional description, and then once I save from there, that's it. The automation is set and Home Assistant will be keeping an eye out for that trigger. This now means that if the printer ever detects an issue or experiences an error mid-print, providing it's not between 11 PM and 7 AM, when I may not want loud robots waking me up, my Google Nest will literally tell me there's a problem, like this.
The X1C has encountered an error.
Now as cool as it is, this obviously only works if I'm already sat in my office. I could have it alert all of the Nest Hubs in my house at the same time, but that's not going to be great for other people that are in different rooms of the house sat watching TV or something. However, I'm setting up a system that will track which room each of us are in, so I can then have it identify which room I am personally in and have the nearest Nest speaker alert me. If you're interested in a tutorial on how to set up room-based tracking with Home Assistant, let me know in the comments. Knowing who is where can really be fantastic for customizing automations. You could equally use this to power your printer down automatically via a smart plug once it's sufficiently cooled down after a print, have your Google Nest give you a 5-minute heads up before a print finishes, or add a spool of filament to your shopping list automatically when a slot in your AMS runs out. There's an infinite amount of possibilities that you could do with this, and whilst I won't be going into them more now, I will be covering automations in more depth in future videos, so keep an eye out for them. But we've still only really scratched the surface here. We've integrated our Bambu Lab printer with Home Assistant, and we've taken a quick look at the sensors and automations, but let's continue looking through what this integration offers us. Back on the device page below automations, we have scenes. Here you can apply your desired settings to all the entities of all the devices that you want for a specific scenario, which you could then activate sort of like an automation or manually. Stepping away from printers, these are often used in living rooms for something like cinema mode. You can evoke a cinema scene which dims the lights, turns on the TV, and draws your automated curtains or blinds. A scene allows you to control multiple devices and entities at the same time with a single command, so it can be very useful if you have things that you frequently want to do which involve setting up several devices in a certain way. Scripts are a more nuanced way of doing similar things to automations and scenes, but with more control. Again, this is something I'll be covering in multiple future videos. Below the long list of sensors, we have configuration, which is the core printer control buttons pause, resume, and stop. Underneath that, we have diagnostic, which is just more details and flags, such as if there is a new firmware available for this device. And below that, we have other devices directly connected to the X1C, in this case 2 AMSs and the external spool slot. At the bottom of most of these sections is an Add to Dashboard button. Dashboards are a core component of how you'll interact with Home Assistant, so let's take a look at these now. Whilst the automation is a really cool feature of Home Assistant, and arguably where its real power lies, a lot of people want to connect their Bambu Lab printers to Home Assistant as a way of monitoring everything in a nice and easy to use custom user interface. And whilst what we've seen so far is useful, it's definitely not a pretty or simple GUI. As I said, Home Assistant works around dashboards. There are a few dashboards by default, including Overview, which has all of the new devices added to it. You can create multiple dashboards, so you could have one for your smart home devices, one for your energy and solar panels, and one for your 3D printers. Each dashboard can have multiple pages or tabs known as views. So if you have multiple printers, you could have a different view for each printer on your 3D printer dashboard, or you could have a whole dashboard for each printer and separate pages for each separate features such as an overview, a filament view, and a temperature view, etc. To create a new dashboard, go to Settings, Dashboards, and click Add Dashboard in the bottom right-hand corner. This will give you several options, but for now, we'll just select New Dashboard from scratch. We'll call it 3D printers and we'll select a relevant icon, then we'll click create. You'll see that it's now been added to the sidebar, and if we click it there, it'll take us to the dashboard, which is obviously blank at the moment as we've not yet added anything. So let's hit the pencil in the top right. Whilst the dashboard is titled in the sidebar, we can optionally add a title that will be displayed above the dashboard here. You can either leave this blank and it will remain blank, or you can enter a title that will be displayed at the top. As I mentioned before, dashboards can have multiple views. By default, we start out with one, which you can see here is called Home. Let's rename this one to X1C. If you select an icon here, it will display the icon instead of the title in the tab at the top of the dashboards. Then click Save. As well as the X1C, I've gone ahead and added an A1. I didn't show you this as it's the exact same process again, but now let's create a second view called A1. While still in edit mode, we can reorder the views via the arrows at the top here, and if we come out of edit mode, we can then tab between them like this, but they are obviously still both empty. Dashboards work by you adding cards to them, each of which can display information, buttons, and inputs for anything integrated with Home Assistant. Think of them as dynamic frames or boxes containing widgets. So let's start out looking at those. We'll hit Add Card on the bottom right. We now want to select the card that we'd like to add, either by selecting the card type, or by selecting the entity that you want to display information from or have control over. If we select X1C chamber lights here, and let's change the icon, down here you can then optionally add additional actions that are activated when you either hold the card down or double tap it. So for example, you could have a single click turn the light on or off, but a double tap turns it on for 5 seconds, then automatically back off again. We'll leave them for now and just click Save. Now if we click Done at the top right, we now have this big button. If I click this, it turns my X1C chamber light on and off. Let's go back into edit mode and add another card. This time we'll go to the Entity tab and we'll select the X1C camera. We'll tick the box here and click Continue. Again, it gives us a preview where we can change a couple of settings, but we'll click Add to Dashboard. Let's add one more card. If we go to Add Cards and then back to Elements again, let's select a few different elements at the same time. Then we'll click Continue. You can see that you can have multiple different bits of information from different entities within the same card. With multiple cards on your dashboard, you can change the order with the plus and minus symbols at the bottom of each card. And if we click Edit on this card, you can see that we can also change the order of the information within the card itself. So you can see that by doing this, you can quickly build a tidy and custom user-friendly user interface where you can see everything that you need in one place quickly and easily. These dashboards could even include buttons that run scripts or scenes that you've made, so at the click of a button, you could preheat the nozzles of all of your 3D printers at the same time, ready to print, or fire up the workshop lighting and extractor fan. You can further customize and stylize your Home Assistant dashboard using themes and other add-ons that you can install, some of which are specifically designed for specific purposes and others are more general Home Assistant mods, but each of them have a list of requirements to go through before setup that are unique to them, so I won't be covering them here. However, I will be going through some of the more popular ones in future videos.
It's also possible to connect non-Bambu Lab 3D printers to Home Assistant, providing they're connected to Octoprint, which is also usually installed on a Raspberry Pi. Having your Bambu Lab 3D printer connected to Home Assistant will also allow you to connect it to Octo Everywhere, which I've covered in previous videos.
But up until recently, it's been exclusively available to printers running either Octoprint or Clipper. Having your Bambu Lab printer connected to Octo Everywhere will add even more functionality to your printer, and I'll be covering this in another video very soon.
I really hope you found this video useful, and if you did, just a reminder that you can now become a channel member by hitting the join button below my video, or if you can't do that, while you're down there, just tap the like and subscribe button and make my day. Either way, as always, thanks very much everyone, and until next time, happy printing. Huge thanks to my 3D revolutionaries for your support and general awesomeness. While you're here, why not check out one of my other videos to learn something new or have some fun. Thanks very much everyone, and until next time, happy printing.